What are rich people doing differently to become rich? Inheritors aside, they are investing. Even innovators with great products or people with huge salaries don't get rich without putting their money into something that will gain value over time, real estate, stocks, etc. There's also the hard work thing, sure, but no one works harder than dudes doing manual labor in the middle of summer and they're not so rich. My friend has been putting a percentage of his paycheck into the S&P 500 since he was 21 in 2011. In the beginning it was maybe $15 to $20 a month, then after he graduated college and got better pay it was maybe $50 to $70 a month and he kept increasing the amount as he could over time. Now he's in his 30s with a house that he bought himself. Imagine being able to buy a house? As some rich guy once said, you don't get rich by working, you get rich by owning things, companies, stocks, land, real estate, etc. Well then I better start owning things. My grandfather's comment to me when I graduated from college was, it's not how much you make, but how much you keep. I'm sure that's not a comment original to him, but I've kept it in mind throughout life thus far. Far from rich, but it's been good advice. We had this saying at my old work based on a real interaction with a client. $400,000 isn't a lot of money after you've spent it all. This client claimed to not make a lot of money, but we saw their income and spending habits. You can always outspend your income. I have a coworker who makes a lot more than I do, but is always crying poverty. This is the same person who has a new car every 3 years or so. Like the folks who cry that they are living paycheck to paycheck but have a jet ski for everyone in the family that they keep at their lakefront home with expensive cars parked in the driveway. When most people say they want to be a millionaire, what they might actually mean is, I'd like to spend $1 million. And that is literally the opposite of being a millionaire. Morgan Housel. I want to be rich enough that spending $1 million a year won't matter. What everyone means when they say, I want to be a millionaire, but Morgan wants to be profound. In my case, spending less than I earned for about 25 years. Forcing myself to invest, even when I was broke. My parents were not at all rich. Yup, me too. Grew up lower middle class. No financial help from parents for university. Scholarships/work/loans made it out of a private university. Got first job, maxed 401k from day one. Anything extra each month went to student loans and then mortgage after that. Retired at 49 debt-free. Glad to see people are talking about budgeting and investing, the two pillars. However, they have normally also solved the boot problem. They invest in the tools and resources they buy when doing so increases longevity or profit. The boot problem basically says that one of the things holding people back is that they can't afford to be better off. When they go in to buy a pair of boots, they have a pair that costs $100 and lasts 6 months and a pair that costs $500 and lasts 10 years, and they are forced to buy the $100 simply because they never have $500 to invest in the longer-lasting product. This costs them an extra $150 a year. But people who save and tackle a single boot problem can take that saved money and invest it both back into more boot problems and the stock market. Even if you don't need boots, there are thousands of boot problems you can get stuck in. For example, if you don't have money to buy a car, you're often stuck using a loan to finance, which means you can't shop the private market as easily and are paying a markup. Since people like this usually have fewer credit opportunities, you might be stuck using a buy here pay here. Try getting a $2,000 beater at a dealership or car lot. But if you don't have $2,000, you're buying something more just to get anything. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vims reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50. But an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vims always bought, and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was in Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time. While the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. Men at Arms, by Terry Pratchett. They invest. Seriously. Most rich people, I'm not talking billionaires or athletes, just invested their money at a relatively young age and kept the discipline to keep investing and are millionaires by 40, with more average jobs than you think. Compound interest is crazy, and it's unbelievable that basic investing isn't a required course in high school. There are so many people that don't understand the power of compound interest. It's not always about what you make. It's about what you save/invest. You have to have something to invest first. Compound interest is crazy, but so is inflation. You obviously have to work, but inflation isn't an excuse not to do it. Even $50 a month leads to tens of thousands of dollars over decades. God forbid you double that, and the sky's the limit. Most people don't even start though. I think stories of people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg throw off the public. In my experience, knowing quite a few self-made millionaires, most of them make career decisions after working in their industry for a while. The majority of the time to start their own firm. I know one guy from a white, working-class background, who worked for most of his 20s for other firms before starting his own recruitment firm. That was in the 80s, and he's now worth $70 million. Likewise, I know a guy in travel who spent a long time working for others before breaking out on his own. Found a partner to invest, set up his owner company, and 15 to 20 years later he's very wealthy, not sure net worth but makes $500K a year. I think if you want a reproducible model, so to speak, it's about refining yourself in a particular trade or sector, and then branching out when you've reached a certain degree of maturity. For all self-made people I've met, this is what seems to happen. Can be done at any age, but I think it's normally in 30s/40s. I'm just speaking from what I've seen as a 29M. The other two types are luck, i.e. they invest in the right thing and it blows up or something. The majority of rich people I know though, inheritance. They just have rich parents/grandparents, inherit a bunch of property/assets, cycle continues, etc. I think the healthiest way is to see it as a long-term thing that will take at least a decade, maybe less though if you're lucky, and just build wealth over time. If it's starting a business, take your time and make the right decisions. If you're climbing the career ladder, just do a good job, take opportunities when they come, invest on the side, etc. Again, I'm not rich myself, but from what I've seen, that would be your best bet. Finding multiple sources of income, buying an appreciating asset like a house and paying it off, etc. The really rich get into huge debts to build something brilliant, but the ordinary rich keep out of debt and build their wealth slowly. Two different types. The Dave Portnoys and the Dave Ramsey. I know you're not looking for a stupid answer like, inherit $1 million, because statistically that's not the case. I was always taught to never act rich. Research purchases, spend only what you can afford, live by a budget. I live paycheck to paycheck. I work hard, have a modest house, decent cars, but nothing about me says I have money. I make my kids earn everything they want, no handouts unless they are working towards something. I invest/save every dollar. When I retire, I won't have to worry at all.